Kimuli was formally forwarded to the Parliamentary Service Commission the same day. The clerk, and this is very, very surprising, the clerk together with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Rectangular, have since refused to forward the names of the 9 nominees to the President for gazettement within the stipulated 7 days. This has really surprised us because after we met and we moved with speed to ensure compliance with the court directives, there has been no movement in Parliament deliberately to delay this process. This is meant, we believe, to allow the National Liberty Party nominee, who is, we believe, an agent of the Kenya Kwanza government, to appeal and to further delay this process. So we're here today as the opposition to demand immediate gazettement of the IEBC selection panel, who should move with speed to put in place the new IEBC, and we should stop these shenanigans and sideshows that have caused the delay for all this period, because the delay in having the new IEBC places the future of our democracy at stake. And I think after 2 years of William Ruto's leadership, we can declare today that William Ruto is indeed an existential threat to our democracy. And this interference with this key institution further confirms that. I would like now to invite my brother, Honorable Kioni, to take us to the second part on the abductions. Thank you.
Thank you. As indicated by my colleague, the next issue that we would want to address is the issue of police phone spying, state-sponsored abductions, hijackings, and extrajudicial killings. An investigative study by the Nation Media Group exposed what has long been suspected by Kenyans, and that is Kenyan police, in collusion with the telecommunication companies, have illegally and illegally accessed data belonging to Kenyans. This is the most blatant example to date that the Kenya Kwanza government has captured all our state institutions. The Constitution of Kenya Chapter 4, the Bill of Rights, Part 2, and Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, and Article 31 on privacy, specifically states that every Kenyan has the right to privacy, which includes right to have their person, human and property searched. Every person has the right to privacy, which includes the right not to have their person, home or property searched, their possessions seized, information relating to their family or private affairs unnecessarily required or refused, or the privacy of their communication infringed. Further, the Data Protection Act of 2019 gives effect to Article 31C and D of the Constitution and provides for the protection of personal data by requiring organizations to obtain consent from individuals before collecting, using, or disclosing their personal information. It also gives individuals the right to access, correct, and delete their personal information. The law applies to data controllers, data processors, including government agencies, internet service providers, and even the supermarkets. Despite constitutional protections, that these illegally obtained records have been used to track down, harass, threaten, abduct, and support extrajudicial killings of Kenyans seen to be anti-Kenya Kwanza regime and its leaders. We condemn all telecommunication companies including Safaricom, Airtel and Telecom Kenya, as well as any mobile network operators for illegally providing location records and data to security agents. Please be aware that you too will be held criminally culpable and responsible for the harassment of Kenyans and abductions and the extrajudicial killings. I'll now invite our leader, our official opposition leader, and the leader of the people's opposition.
How far have you gone up to here?
Fellow Kenyans.
Oh, fellow Kenyans. Oh, fellow Kenyans, the significant increase in arbitrary arrests, enforced disappearances, torture, and extrajudicial killings should be deeply of concern not only to law-abiding Kenyans, but also the international community and our development partners. If it was not clear before, the release of the investigative report, the lifting of the fog, or lawyers say lifting the veil, reviews of the Kenya Police Service motto of utumishi kwa wote, quote unquote, or service to all, quote unquote, has been substituted by utumishi kwa Kenya Kwanza, Kenya Kwanza, quote unquote. Since June, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and the Police Reforms Working Group have reported 23 murders, 34 forcibly vanished individuals, and 164 arrests, including those of Bob Njagi, Aslam Longton, and Jamil Longton, who were kidnapped in Kitengela and released after 1 month. Denzel Omondi, a JKU art student, was among the demonstrators who stormed the parliament on June 25th, was abducted 2 days later. 9 days later, his tortured body was discovered floating in a Juja quarry. John Juguna Kuria, a civic educationist based in West Pokot, was reported missing for 12 days before his mangled body was discovered discarded. Over the past 3 days, Maverick Aoko and Boniface Mwangi have been kidnapped from their houses. After being freed, Mwangi was accused of inciting others. It's still not clear where Ms. Aoko is. The most alarming is that public butcheries in Thika and Nairobi are requesting court orders to dispose 201 unclaimed dead bodies that the police have dropped off in the past year. Joining the growing international condemnation, the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, and the World Organization Against Torture, OMCT, have denounced this regime for gross human rights violations that amount to apparent breaches of international humanitarian treaties that Kenya has ratified, especially the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Conventions Against Torture and Enforced Disappearances. As the opposition, we demand that the security services from the National Intelligence Service, NIS, under the leadership of Nordin, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, and the DCI, led by Mohammed Amin, the Anti-Terrorism Police Unit, ATPU, under the leadership of Sid Kiprotich, the Serious Crimes Unit, led by Michael Sang, Joseph Boynet, the Deputy National Security Advisor, State House, and the Crime Research Intelligence Unit, CRIB, led by John Onyango, ought to be held accountable for their violations of Kenyans' rights and made criminally responsible. Because at the end of the day, all public officers holding the positions I've mentioned are not above the Constitution. Furthermore, their immediate superiors, the Inspector General of the Kenya Police and the Minister Minister for Interior and National Administration should be held accountable for overseeing a service that has gone rogue, with a focus on serving the interests of a few political elite at the expense of Kenyan security. However, it is our contention that the President of the Republic of Kenya carries the biggest responsibility for police phone spying, state-sponsored abductions, hijackings, and extrajudicial killings. Despite overwhelming evidence, including that of the Deputy President, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, during the impeachment trial, Mr. Ruto continues to claim that he is not aware of any such incidents. Ruto further says that these abductions, extrajudicial killings, are fake news and propaganda that is hurting our nation. We want to make it clear to Mr. Ruto that it is actually his thought out efforts to revert Kenya to a police state that are hurting our nation and our nation's image, locally and abroad. The buck stops with him. Mr. Ruto should resign with immediate effect for violating his oath of office to be faithful and bear true allegiance to the public, to the Republic of Kenya, and that he would obey, preserve, and protect this Constitution of Kenya. That was the oath of office. Lastly, we take this moment to pay tribute to the brave Nation Media group journalists for releasing their investigations in a time of such great danger for practitioners. Regardless of media outlet, you have been brutally attacked by security agents. We understand the equipments have been illegally confiscated. We know that a fair number of you have been taken to court and gag orders issued stopping you from publishing on certain topics, organizations, or personalities. Nonetheless, you steadfastly adhere to the Kenyan Code of Conduct for the practice of journalism. By doing so, you have demonstrated that the fundamental yearning for democratic liberties, including access to honest and fact-based news, will never be destroyed, even by the most brutal dictatorship. Thank you very much, and may God bless our country, Kenya. I just need to probably highlight here, just as what is happening in the country with a living example. Regard to disenfranchising Kenyans, the people of Banisa in the northeast and the people of Magarini, for example, have been waiting. I think it's going to the second year, probably over 3 years. I have here, for example, Mr. Samuel Kombenzai. Why don't you stand here? Mr. Samuel Kombenzai has been waiting to run for the by-election in Magarini on a Wiper ticket, which is an Azimio ticket. But there's nothing happening. What instead we're witnessing is procrastination, attempts to say, because the most illogical thing I've heard in the last 24 hours is a statement by my friend Weta saying that they want first of all to dispense with the Gachagua hearings before he can forward the names of the 9 nominees to President Ruto to Gazette. Because he said if we send out, as we acted expeditiously, as my colleague has mentioned, then he said time would have started running. It is obvious they want to prolong this whole thing about establishing a new IEBC. We say it plainly so that even our diplomatic colleagues, heads of missions accredited to Kenya, please take note. I heard the American ambassador to Kenya Meg Whitman expressed concern. In fact, I think she even visited the IEBC. It is clear Mr. Ruto does not want an IEBC. I think he should tell us why he doesn't want a new IEBC. Wenyewe wajidhibiti, sababu usipojidhibiti basi itakuwa ngumu sana. Nakushukuru kwa swali lako. Kwa jumla tumekusanyika hapa leo ili tutoe taarifa ambayo tumesoma kwa lugha ya Kiingereza kwamba Wakenya hawaridhiki kamwe kwa sababu ya mambo haya matatu. Jambo la kwanza ni kwamba sasa yapata mwaka wa tuendelea sasa mwaka wa 3 hivi bila kuwa na tume ya uchaguzi, na tumeweka wazi kwamba Bwana Ruto, rais wa jamhuri kwa wakati huu, ni kama hana nia kabisa la kuhakikisha kwamba Kenya inapata tume mpya. Yaliyofanyika nyuma yote tuelewa, lakini sasa kuna umuhimu mkubwa sana. Jina la Koki Moli limepelekwa mbele kwa sababu jambo hili lilikuwa limepelekwa kwa mahakama. Wengine walikuwa wakitaka kulaumu wanaazimio na Wiper wakati ule, lakini wiki moja iliyopita uamuzi umetolewa na mahakama kwamba yule ambaye alikuwa anasongeshwa mbele atoki kwa chama ambacho kimewakilishwa bungeni. Kwa hivyo ikatubidi sisi wenyewe tukusanyike haraka sana, kwani tulikuwa tumepatiwa muda mdogo sana hadi saa 9 masaa 48 tumtafute ambaye atawakilisha kwa upande wa Political Parties Liaison Committee, kwa sababu Bwana Adams Olo alikuwa amepita wa ODM kuwakilisha bunge. Sasa Koki Moli tukapeleka jina lake, lakini tangu wakati huo hakuna jambo ambalo, kwa sababu ni Parliamentary Service Commission, naamini katibu wake Bwana Nyengenye akaandika barua akisema basi ili acheleweshe mambo haya, hata tu kuweka kwa taarifa, kila mmoja wenu wa watu 9 ambao umeteuliwa kama wana panelists, kila mmoja wenu atoe taarifa yake, CV na onyeshe vile amefikia kiwango hiki hadi kuteuliwa. Sio kazi ya Bwana Nyengenye kuuliza watu maswali kama hayo. Kazi yake ilikuwa tu ni kupeleka orodha pamoja na Waita, wapeleke orodha kwa rais. So that was a delay tactic. Jambo la aibu sana hili. Tukiwa chini ya ulinzi wa katiba ya 2010, hatuwezi tukaruhusu mambo kama haya jameni. Upuzi wishe ili tuwe na tume mpya. Kwa sababu tukiwa na tume mpya, tuna Bwana Samuel Nzai hapa ambaye anatamani kupata tikiti ya Wiper ili akagombania kiti cha Magarini. Mimi mwenyewe niko na historia ya Magarini by elections. Nilimkampenia aliyeспика sasa hivi Bwana Amason King. Kulikuwa na by election, nikaenda nikampigia kampeni kabisa, akachaguliwa kama mbunge wa Magarini, na leo ni spika wa bunge la Senate. Kwa hivyo watu wa Magarini na watu wa Banisa na kuna wengine wengi ambao MCAs wengine wameaga dunia, na watu wanataka wapate huduma kutoka kwa viongozi. Kwa hivyo swala hilo nadhani tumelitamka vizuri. Jambo lingine hii mambo hii
labda
ngoja mwenzangu aongeze juu ya kina Safaricom hawa. Hatuna hujuma, hatuna kuhujumu, lakini Wakenya wajue kwamba mambo haya, ukiona kama mwenzako ananyolewa
chako tia maji,
wewe tia kichwa chako maji. We are doing it for the good of this nation. Eugene.
Asante. Kuongezea tu tukio kule Bomas, wakumbuka tulikuwa na mambo ya NADCO kule, na vile vile kulikuwa na mapendekezo ya kwamba mashirika yanayohusika katika kudhulumu wa Kenya tutawagomea kama wananchi, yani ile boycott. Na kati ya yale mashirika ilikuwa Safaricom, pia kulikuwa na benki ya KCB, wakati kumekuwa na kashfa ya mafuta ile edible oils bilioni 16 zimechukuliwa na marafiki wa Ruto kupitia KNTC, kupitia KCB. Tulikuwa tumesema kama wa Kenya tutahakikisha kwamba haya mashirika yataajibika, na leo kwa hii statement yetu tunataka tuambie kina Safaricom na wale wanatumika na polisi in aiding and abetting the abductions, the enforced disappearances, the extrajudicial killings. They shall be held accountable by the people of the Republic of Kenya. Wale watoto ambao walikuwa na simu wakiingia bungeni wakiwa na maji na bendera, ile teknolojia ya Safaricom ilitumika kuweza kupata watoto hawa wengi. Kufika sasa wameuawa na hii serikali, na sio Kenya tu, nchi jirani ya Tanzania. Juzi tumesikia kiongozi wa upinzani Tundu Lissu kule walitumia teknolojia kumtafuta alipokuwa, na akafanyiwa yale madhambi ambayo alitaka kuuawa. Leo hii hatuongei tu ya majenzi, hata sisi kama viongozi wa upinzani tunajua ya kwamba simu zetu have been tracked. Tunajua ya kwamba vile Tundu Lissu waliwekwa hatarini kule Tanzania, mashirika yanayotumika hapa na teknolojia yao wataajibika kwa Wakenya. If any harm comes to Kalonzo Musyoka ama Kioni ama Wamala ama viongozi wengine, tunajua ya kwamba mko mnatumika na mnasaidia kupeana hiyo teknolojia na kupeana palipo wale ambao wanatafutwa na polisi. So you shall be held equally accountable for aiding and abetting the police in these abductions, extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances. Asante.
So, I think that's okay. Yes, ma'am. We must remind ourselves that this is it's a lawful situation under Article 37. The right to demonstrate, to picket. The Gen Zs did us proud. We keep on repeating. And you may think that they are probably done over with. Perhaps it could be it could be the thing before the storm.
It's calm before the storm.
Sijamaliza. Wewe Fula umetumwa. Lakini nakwambia hivyo, yeah, the big calm before the storm. Thank you, Jeremiah. Sasa nimalizie kwa kusema kwamba we have been some positive critics have said sisi kazi yetu ni kukaa hapa na kutoa ma statement. We shall issue important statements like now, and we shall go to the people at the right time, and you'll be hearing about it. For the love of this country, we shall move. And those Kenyans, we know the majority of Kenyans are feeling the way we are feeling. In fact, we are speaking their language. Wafula, what was your question?
Simple one. Is Azimio dead?
What do you think?
I need a clarification from you.
Well, as we speak.
Kioni can deal with
No, Kioni, I know Jeremiah. I know Jeremiah will bury it now. All right? We have certain things to do. We are very decent people. These two gentlemen here, that's why I don't want to give them the floor. No, Azimio is there on paper. Coalitions disagree. Like, as Azimio, we disagreed on the impeachment motion. Our colleagues in ODM supported impeachment.
broad-based.
They went on broad-based. In fact, even them, I can tell you, even Baba was surprised by the broad-based. But that's okay, all right? We stood out in opposition against that broad-based or bread-based government. We are, some of us, in court of Andani.
Agree.
And you know, Andani, even in Safaricom, kila kitu, state capture. We have said it. But we have not said we are winding up Azimio. At least not yet. So, we will hold our leaders together, we hold together and ask ourselves very honestly, hatutaka kama divorce inakuwa messy and disorderly. Weta again, my friend said that one time. Yeah? No. We have to do things differently. And so, the freedom of speech, the freedom of association, wakati ukifaa, tuone mambo haya hawezi kuendelea vile yalivyo, we shall brief our people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't need to answer.